was never a doubt for me. Yeah, like I always wanted to be a professional, and I always knew I would be. So for me, I remember having conversations with like teammates my freshman year, and they're like, you seem a little arrogant. I'm like, okay, like that's okay.
Welcome to a new edition of the City Voice podcast. I'm joined by a very special guest, Henry Kessler. Welcome to the show, Henry. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure having you on. We're really excited to have you at the club. But before we get into the meat of the podcast, there are some very important fan questions. It says quick fire, but not all of them are quick. Smitty Coach 11 says, assuming you'll be with the club long term, fans are already into you. What does he want his legacy to be while playing at St. Louis?
My legacy, it is.
Yeah.
I would love my legacy to be that I was part of an MLS Cup winning team. So, that's the ultimate achievement in this league. So hopefully that's the legacy I'll have by the time I leave.
Fantastic. We started off strong. JB, good buddy. Ask him what wahoo means.
So this phrase was used in college a lot. I actually don't know what it means, but everyone at UVA said it. But I never learned the actual meaning, so I don't know.
That's good. When I put that question down, I wasn't sure whether it was going to be something offensive that I would have to cut out. Santi Beltran, does he know Spanish?
Un poco. Estoy trabajando en mi español, pero no entiendo muy bien. I'm practicing, but I don't understand very well. It's really hard for me to hear, especially like I feel like Spanish speakers, they talk so quickly. It's probably not that quickly for them, but it's so difficult for me to understand. But I can generally say what I want to say, so a little bit.
Our Santos supporter group is going to be very excited to hear you say that. That's for sure. Sexy Red or Scissor?
I don't listen to a ton. I'm going to go Scissor. Okay, just keep it simple.
I can't actually, I don't actually know how you say this Twitter handle. At Bio, is our heat and humidity as bad as we think it is here? How's the weather playing here compared to the Northeast?
It's warmer here for sure. The air tastes different. It's I've pretty much played on the East Coast my entire life. Grew up in New York, then went to Virginia, then in Boston. So this is a different climate, but I'm adjusting.
Tim's bucket hat. What was the best thing about playing at Virginia?
The best thing about playing at Virginia, there were a lot of good things. I thought, the field was great. We have a great field here too. We didn't have a ton of travel. All of our out of conference games, they came to us. That's really helpful, especially when you have school. You don't miss a ton of class, which is really convenient. But just, being on a great team at a great university, I would say that was the best thing.
Hannah, so your favorite STL mural so far?
Yeah, so there's this one that I came across by Slew, by the artist Finch. I think it's FNNCH, of this like teddy, there's like 4 teddy bears. Really cool. Put it on my Instagram story. I'm a big fan. I'm hoping to buy a print. I think he releases one maybe today. So I'm going to be on my phone later and try to figure it out. But yeah, big fan.
Fantastic. Final question. At bear_game16, favorite St. Louis food so far?
Gooey butter cake has to be.
Yeah?
I haven't tried toasted rabs yet. I've heard great things, but I'm going to go with the gooey butter cake.
Strong choice. Okay, let's move into the meat of the podcast. Growing up, let's start at the beginning. Where did you grow up and what was your early life like?
Yeah, so I grew up in the East Village in New York City. So that's downtown Manhattan. It was what I thought was normal until I really got to college, because then I was like, oh, these people aren't from a big city, like that's strange. And it's like, no, actually, that's unique being from a big city. So I didn't realize how different it was until I got to college, but I really enjoyed it. There's always something to do. There's a lot going on. So I'm a big fan of New York.
I lived in Lower East Side, and am I correct? They do a pug parade in East Village, right?
Yeah, I think you are.
They dress them up in little Halloween outfits. It's pretty cute.
Yeah, that does happen. I don't think I ever went, But there's so much to keep track of. So
a lot of crazy stuff there.
Yeah.
Were you always passionate about soccer? Like, who inspired that in your family life?
I will say, so I have two older sisters. They both played a bit. My parents did not. Soccer wasn't big when, like in the US at least, when they were growing up, so they didn't play a ton. But my dad played a lot of football. He didn't want me to get into that just because it's a fairly dangerous sport. So, there were opportunities to play soccer. Fell in love with the game, went to my sister's practices when I was really young, and then eventually my own, and never stopped playing.
Where do you play when you grow up in East Village?
Yeah.
Like a lot of soccer around there. Do you go like to Jersey or? Like,
a lot of people ask this question. So they started to build piers into the rivers. So like fields on the East River or fields on the Hudson River. In order to make space for fields. So that's where I would play growing up. Eventually, I did play in Jersey when I was on the Red Bull Academy. And then even after that, played in Connecticut. So I've been to a few places in the tri-state area.
And soccer in New York, Premier League soccer in particular, like really exploded over the last 10 years. Were you more of I just play, or did you support a team growing up from like, either Red Bulls or like something a bit more international?
Yeah, so my Premier League team would be Arsenal. I feel like there are a lot of guys on the team that support Arsenal, so it's good, it's welcoming. And how my family picked that team is they had to be on TV.
Yep.
So we could watch them. They couldn't be quite the best team yet because we didn't want to, we're rooting for the best team. No, we didn't want to do that. And we had to enjoy watching them. So those three combinations led us to Arsenal. And we've been, I would say I've been a fan since like 2006. So after that World Cup, I really started watching a lot. That was kind of my introduction.
So just as Arsenal started to decline,
exactly.
you picked them up. So you've gone through a lot of suffering.
Yes.
You've gone through a lot of
yes,
suffering.
Precisely. I missed their golden era. So just after that, I started supporting them.
Did you model your game on anybody growing up? Were there any players that you were like, I love their style and that's who I want to be?
Yeah, so there's I don't know if where he plays now, Belgium or somewhere else, but Laurent Koscielny played for Arsenal quite a bit. So I liked his game a lot. Sergio Ramos, these are great center backs to learn from. So I tried to model my game after them.
And what were the elements of their game that you really enjoyed?
So Ramos has a lot of like intangibles, I'd say. So like leadership, passion, intensity, those are all things I would like to bring. And then Koscielny I thought was like good positionally, because he wasn't the biggest guy, but I thought he used his awareness really well and read the game really well. So all those things.
So it's transfer deadline day right now. There's 45 minutes left to go. Arsenal are being linked to Raheem Sterling. If we get him over the line, do you think Arsenal can win the Premier League this year?
I'm going to say yes, even if they don't. Yeah. So I don't think they need him. Yep. I think he would be a good depth signing.
Yeah.
But I think either way, they are Premier League champions this year.
So you're all in Arsenal winning the Premier League
all in. I am all in.
That's what I like to hear. Fantastic. So so you obviously start getting quite good at soccer. Your dad wasn't a big soccer fan. Did he start to develop his love for the game as you started to progress in your early career?
Yeah, he always supported us. So my younger brother played soccer too. So whatever we were playing, he and my mom were supporting us. So he became a fan. My grandfather, eventually became a fan, but like I think he wanted me to go into football initially, American football that is. But no, he's always supported us, and he's learned a lot about the game, and he's always been there for me.
So how did your path go from like getting excited, like just getting into the game, playing over at the piers, to getting to Virginia?
Yeah, so I'm trying to think how to answer that question. So I would say there came an age around 12, 13 where the best teams weren't in New York City themselves, and I had to branch out. So that's when I joined the Red Bull Academy. Played there for 4 years, then went to an academy in Connecticut called Beachside. And when I was at Beachside, played in a winter showcase where the coach at Virginia saw me play, invited me to a camp where he could see me, doing his drills under his coaching. He spoke to me after the camp, said he wanted me to come there, and I went there. So it was pretty straightforward, I guess. In terms of college recruiting, sometimes it can be convoluted. So my path was, I knew Virginia wanted me to go there, and I wanted to go to a really good school and a really good soccer program. And so that's what I did.
What did you study when you were there?
American Studies. So initially I was pre-School of Commerce, which is the business school there, which is very good. I took financial accounting, and then I never wanted to take a business course again. Horrible course. Don't recommend. Really did not enjoy it whatsoever. So that was the turning point for me. American Studies also enabled me to graduate the earliest, so that's why I chose that.
What was the experience like at Virginia? We've spoken with Simon Betcher just before you came on, and he had some bad points. Was it plain sailing? Were there any moments where you were like, this isn't going? What was the experience like playing there?
I would say it was fairly linear. So my freshman year didn't play probably as much as I would have hoped. Sophomore year played more and the team did better. And then junior year really put it all together and just lost in penalties in the national championship. So was an upward trajectory the whole time, I think. And then that was my last season. So I was only there for 3 years.
What was the biggest improvement in your game that you saw when you were at college?
Probably on the ball, although I think all facets improved. So defensively, aerially, just getting used to playing against bigger, stronger, faster players. So I think just trying to be a well-rounded defender, improving in all facets of my game.
Did you go to college with, in your mind, I'm going to be a professional? What was it, or did you not expect it? Like, what was how focused were you on getting to MLS?
No, it was never a doubt for me. Yeah, like I always wanted to be a professional, and I always knew I would be. So for me, I remember having conversations with like teammates my freshman year, and they're like, oh, you seem a little arrogant. I'm like, okay, like that's okay. But sure enough, I became pro, and when you're so singular focused, I think I believed in myself a lot. And so yeah, I think that helped me just being dedicated to my craft, not getting distracted, which is can be easy during college. But no, I went in, knowing that I would be a professional and followed that path.
A lot of young people and coaches listen to this show, and I always ask people like you, like, what's a great bit of advice you wish you'd had at a younger age when you've got focus like you do? Yeah,
so I've received some good pieces of advice. There was this coach that I didn't like very much my U14 year, but he told me, don't feel sorry for yourself. And it's really good, because there are times when you can feel like, oh, things aren't going my way. I have an injury, I can't stay fit, this coach doesn't know what he's talking about, stuff like that. And you can't feel sorry for yourself, because everyone at some point or another deals with that. So you just kind of need to persist, power through, and you can't have the mindset that, you can't catch a break. Everything is in your control. So don't feel sorry for yourself.
Great advice. So let's move on to the professional career. You were the 6th pick in the 2020 MLS Super Draft for the New England Revolution. Did you know that move was coming? Did people whisper? Did they get on the phone?
So my agent kept me up to date. He said, if you're available the day before the draft, he said, if you're available at 6, New England will take you. So I knew that. I didn't know if I would get selected before then. I knew Miami had a couple picks, Vancouver had a pick, Orlando had a pick, and Nashville had a pick. So there were 5 picks before me. I didn't know if I would go to one of those teams, but I knew if I was available at 6, I would go to New England. So as soon as the 6th pick came up, I knew I was receiving a call, and sure enough, I did.
I think I've read on one of your Instagram posts that they told you that they would have picked you first.
Yes,
How
that's
did that make
correct.
you feel?
Yeah, it made me feel really good. So, on I don't know if it was a day or two after the draft, my then head coach, Bruce Arena, said, we would have taken you with the first pick if we had it, but we were glad you were available at 6. And, I think that gave me a lot of confidence going in, that they believed in me so much. So that was something that was nice to hear.
Did being close to home factor in the joy that you had about that pick, and you can drive that?
Yeah,
right?
yeah, you can drive that 3.5, 4 hours depending on how fast you're going.
Yeah.
But no, it was nice to be close to home. My dad went to school in the area, my sister as well, so I had some familiarity. And yeah, it's just the proximity is nice. I'm just familiar with the Northeast. It's a very similar culture, so that was all familiar to me, which made it easier maybe.
And you're a big sports fan, more broadly speaking.
Yeah.
Boston is a sporting town, city. What was it? Were you excited that you would also get to sort of dabble, go and see other things? Is it nice to be part of a sporting culture? I mean, we're very demanding fans, right?
Yes. It was nice. It was kind of a, bittersweet, because such great sports culture, but also I still have these ties to New York. So like the Yankees, I still haven't given up. I know they play the Cardinals tonight. So that's going to be a tricky one. But I'm still a Knicks fan too. There's no basketball team here, so I think I'm safe there. But so it was difficult, who do I root for? A couple times I got in trouble on Twitter, saying things like "Go Yankees," stuff like that. So it was great to have such passionate fans. And likewise here, from what I've seen so far, I'm really excited for the match Sunday. Finally, play my first game at home. But it was nice to be in that environment.
So you won't hand in your Yankees credentials for the Cards?
No, not yet. The Cards will be my NL team. The Yankees will be my AL team. How about that?
Okay, good stuff. So first day of training, you're a pro now. You've made it to the level that you wanted to make, and now there's a whole new journey. What was that first training session like for you?
I actually remember the first training session quite well. It was not great. I remember thinking like, I can't connect a pass, So it didn't go super well. I was getting yelled at a bunch from coaches, from players. And like, I wasn't moved in. So I just go back to the hotel, like, just me sitting there, like, my goodness, so it wasn't a great session, but the next day was better. And then, I think each and every day got better and better. And by the end of preseason, I was starting. So I think it worked out pretty well, but that first session was rough.
Were there any players in the dressing room that put their arm around you and sort of guided you through those moments that they'd obviously been through before?
I think Andrew Farrell helped a lot. So he was my center back partner a lot at New England. He was there my rookie year, had already been there for 7 or 8 years. So he knew the lay of the land, and I think he showed me quite a bit. So I would say him.
Do you think it is more difficult for a young centre-back to adapt than maybe someone that's played on the wing? Like, you don't see many young centre-backs coming through, and you obviously made it like very early. What was it like dealing with big, strong, aggressive strikers at such a young age? Like, was that a problem for you?
I think what makes the transition more difficult is it's not a position that you substitute. So positions up front, 9 wingers, even sometimes center mids, you can afford to make a substitution. So then the transition might be easier for a young guy. You get 15 minutes here, you get 30 minutes there, but you don't have to start. Center backs, you don't really sub. So it's either you play 90 or nothing, pretty much. So I would say that makes the transition more difficult. And obviously, the opponents are much better than what I was dealing with in college. So all that factoring in, it was a transition for sure, but one that I think I handled pretty well.
When you move into the professional game, like, are there things that you have access to that allow you to be a better player, like more analysts, more coaches? Like, what's the big difference in professional football?
I would say the treatment room is a huge difference. In college, we had good facilities, but I think there was one trainer for like 2 or 3 teams. So that's a big difference as opposed to, going to a club where there's 4 trainers for 1 team. So, the treatment room, you're getting good care, you get taken care of. So that's a big difference. The facilities were actually quite similar, but I did go to a big school, so there was, good funding. But that was a big difference. Analytics a little bit, but we had pretty good resources in college too. So I would say the treatment room was the biggest difference.
And you had this dream for a big chunk of your life that you want to be a professional. Sometimes people get to where they want to go and you're like, oh, it doesn't feel quite the same. When you reach the professional level and you're starting for an MLS club, was it as good as you expected?
It was. I've always dreamed of being a pro soccer player from a really young age. I feel like in first grade, maybe even kindergarten, what do you want to be when you grow up? Soccer player, every time. And it always stayed the same. So it felt great to achieve that. I feel like there's still more I have to achieve in the sport. I want to play more for the national team. I have 2 caps, but I feel like I can, represent my country more and would love to. Eventually, I do want to play in Europe, so I hope there's an opportunity to do that. So there's still a lot more that I want to achieve, and maybe that keeps me going.
You played a lot of games. What were your sort of core memories from your time in New England Revolution?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm trying to think of a couple. So I would say my debut, played in Montreal in February. I'll tell you the whole story, which is we're supposed to travel the day before. There's a blizzard in Montreal, flight gets canceled. So then we're thinking like, oh, maybe we can charter a flight. This is before chartered flights. COVID changed a lot. So then we do eventually get a chartered flight, fly up to Montreal, make it through the blizzard. I've never seen a landing quite like that. But anyways, we make it. Next day we train there. We're playing in the Olympic Stadium in Montreal just because it's, 10 degrees outside or whatever. And the pitch is reminiscent of a basketball court in that you can hear like squeaks when you cut and stuff like that. Crazy, horrible pitch. But they just put like planks down of artificial grass, of turf. And then the next day we played on it and we ended up losing 2-1, but felt like I had a good debut. But just a crazy experience overall between the travel, the pitch, but a memorable experience for sure. So that was my first game. My 100th game was earlier this season against Inter Miami, against Messi, Suarez. So that was another memorable one. And to have that be my 100th game, I thought was really special. Made sure to keep that jersey. We lost pretty handedly, but to go against some of the best that have ever done it is really special. So those 2 stick out for me.
Did those 2 give you any grief? Was there a little bit of slander that came your way at some point? And you're like, hey, that's Suarez. And
for someone that's like, both guys have achieved so much, but like Suarez comes on, he's like pinching my nipples, stuff like that, doing these little stuff where I'm like, I thought you moved past this, like, right? And then I remember Messi saying like, cuidado, which is like watch out in Spanish. And then he scored a goal shortly after that. So a little bit, yeah. Fantastic.
And you obviously had a bond with the Revs fans, like reading the commentary when you moved on. There were a lot of loving messages. Do you, I guess you haven't really had the chance to say goodbye because you moved so quickly. Do you have any sort of message for them and your...
Yeah, thanks to, everyone who supported me. It means the world to me. That's what I tried to convey on Instagram. But I haven't had the chance to say goodbye, really. It was really quick. One morning, trained, after training, hey, can we have a meeting? Oh, you're traded to St. Louis. Okay. When am I leaving? You're leaving in 24 hours. That's pretty much how quick it works.
Is that quite jarring?
A little bit.
Yeah.
So my agent tried to keep me, updated and posted with everything. So I had a little bit of an idea that there was interest, but there's been interest from other clubs before. So it's not like this was the first time someone had tried to trade for me. So I wasn't quite sure if it would go through. And then when it does go through, you're like, wow, I'm really picking up my life here and moving. Obviously, you know, it was something I was really looking forward to as well. And I'm really happy here, really excited to be here. And I think I've acclimated quite well. But to get back to your question, message for the fans, you know, I think they've been excellent. The fort was really special. That was our fan section. The two supporters groups, the Rebellion and the Midnight Riders, you know, they've been incredible with their support throughout my time there. So thanks to everyone there.
And then you're going to be back there next week.
Very shortly.
The funny world of football.
A week from tomorrow. So I'm really looking forward to that one. That one's going to be special.
Fantastic. So now you made the move to St. Louis. Did you know much about the city before you moved? Had you been paying attention to what happened last year?
The city itself, I did not know a ton about. The club, yes, obviously incredible year last year. You know, winning the conference in the inaugural season is unheard of. So that was a fantastic season. And then I, you know, started to know more. Jared Phillips, the performance coach here, worked with me in New England, so I knew him. There were a couple guys that I knew of, but maybe didn't know so many guys on the team. But there were certain things that, you know, I was familiar with, and last year followed the club a bit. I know, and then talked to Lutz a lot. Once I got traded, you know, got very familiar with the organization, met everyone in the front office. So it was a quick transition, but felt very welcomed, but knew more about the club than the city, I'd say.
And how has the city been to you so far? So you touring around, you know, you mentioned that you were like searching out murals. How's it been so far?
It's been really great. I'm trying to get to know it, and I feel like I want to hit everything. And, you know, while there's not a rush, there's still so much I have to see. Took a walk in Forest Park for the first time yesterday.
It's a big park.
It's a large park.
Wow.
There's a lot in there. So I'll have to go back. But, you know, have walked the campus of SLU. Still have not been to, what's the other university?
There's about 9 of them, isn't there?
Yeah. Okay. Well, then I have a lot to get to.
Wash U.
Wash U. Right? Yeah. So, but I've tried to get around, tried to eat at different places.
Any favorites?
You know, I stumbled across this one called Louis, and lo and behold, it's apparently one of the best restaurants in the city. And I just like, oh, okay, this looks good. You know? So didn't really know much about it, but had a great meal there. So that I would say that's an early favorite right now. But I'm trying to get to different areas of the city and slowly but surely getting to know it quite well.
And how was your introduction to the locker room? Like, there's been a lot of turnover there, a lot of new faces. Like, is it a good time to be part of that?
Yeah, maybe, you know, because like if you're not the only new guy, there's other guys that are learning, and you can ask each other questions and stuff like that. And then the guys that have already been here were super welcoming. You know, Adu, I would say especially, really friendly, very nice. Has told me if I need anything to let him know. So that's very nice. But, you know, a lot of new guys. It's nice not to feel like you're the only new guy. So that's a good feeling.
Do you feel the energy is in a good place after sort of the Leagues Cup run?
Really good Leagues Cup run. Good performances. You know, feel like the team's turning a corner. I think that's what Hack said as well. So I feel like there's good energy around the club, good energy in the locker room, and optimism, really.
And how are you feeling about playing in front of a packed house this weekend against LA? Is that something you're looking forward to?
Really looking forward to it. So, you know, I went to a couple home games during Leagues Cup. I was ineligible to play, but watched the game against Portland, watched the game against Juarez. So kind of got a taste for it, but I've heard the atmosphere is going to be even greater this weekend. So I'm really looking forward to it.
And I'd love to hear you put into your own words, like what sort of a player should St. Louis City fans expect?
Yeah, I think they should expect someone who's good on the ball and good defensively. I like to think of myself as a well-rounded player, and then someone that brings a lot of intensity and tenacity. So I would look out for those things.
And you're one of the more experienced players in the team. You know, what are your expectations of the side heading into the back end of the season? Is there team objectives being set?
make the playoffs. It's going to be tight. There's not a lot of room for error, but that is the expectation and, the standard we want to set. We can still do it. And so we believe in each other. We believe in this group. We believe in this team. So that is the goal, to make a run for the playoffs.
Fantastic. We have a little tradition at the end of the show where you get to message to the fans, and they're excited to have you here. So take it away.
Thank you guys for all your messages. Really appreciate it. It's been awesome how well I've been welcomed here, starting from, when I arrived at the airport, fans already recognizing me. So that was an unbelievable experience that I didn't expect, but all the messages that I have received have been super warm and welcoming, and I can't wait to play in front of you guys.
Fantastic, Henry. Thank you for coming on the show. That was really interesting. If you are listening to this and you're on your iPhone or you're on Spotify, give us a 5-star review. Leave a nice message for Henry, and he might come back next season. And on that note, thank you, Henry. It's been brilliant. It's been the City Voice. Ciao for now.